But some of you don't want to learn. You want to be spoon-fed, and then you want to lie to me after the fact. But ICT, you don't understand. This is what I'm really trying to do. No, you're full of shit. You're trying to take a trade. I guarantee you've probably taken 3 trades this morning, and you regret it. And then the move that unfolded, you weren't part of that, and you feel regret. You feel like you got confused and tricked, and I didn't tell you exactly what you wanted to hear. When I'm telling you what you need to hear. I'm telling you what you need to study and observe, because you don't have the experience to know what to do in that first 30 minutes. So the first stage of your learning is submit to that first 30 minutes. That's part of this. That first 30 minutes is much like an Asian session in Forex, whereas Asian range, rather not Asian session, Asian range is several hours in length and time. But the first 30 minutes after midnight New York local time, that's an opening range too. But at 9:30, I'm looking at that opening range. And we've had a large trending day yesterday. We had a large range expansion to the downside. We had our targets reached. So the next morning session is going to be more difficult than it would be on another day. So you have to be very, very careful and demand more insight, more information, because you don't want to be what? In a hurry, impatient to go and chase something. So you have to have a filter, a time filter. You allow for that first 30 minutes. But what happens if it takes off and runs 25 handles? You fucking missed it. How about that for logic? But you don't want to accept that, because you want to be able to do every fucking micro move. Just because you watch some videos. You think that's what you're supposed to be able to do, and that's bullshit. Nobody said you're supposed to be doing that. I sure as hell didn't say that. So you have to have realistic expectations. You have to be diligent about what it is that you're being told to do, what not to do, and live in that. Allow yourself to develop under those controlled conditions. You're safe. It's okay to make a mistake. If you have an opinion about, okay, Michael's saying, watch this level here, and he's pointing out something below the marketplace. Okay. So is it showing me anything in there that would lead to a trade? If you don't see it and price moves, you'll go back and find it in hindsight, and that's still learning. But you don't want to be pushing a button thinking you understand what I might be hinting at when I'm not hinting at anything. I'm just telling you, watch this level here, note this here. These are areas I'm watching on my own chart. I am not putting things out there that are ambiguous, that mean nothing. I'm drawing your attention to the very specific things that I'm utilizing to determine a bias within a narrative. The first 30 minutes, if I don't know right away what it's going to do, I'm submitting myself to that first 30 minutes myself. I'm doing that. But if I have an inclination that it's going to do a specific thing, run for a liquidity, run for an imbalance, then I'm going to go right in there, and as soon as it does it, if it's in the first 30 minutes, I'm in there. I'm doing the trade. But we have a large range day yesterday, and everybody's going to want to do what? Jump on board. So the market will, most times, not always, most times, reach for some measure of buy side. Why? Because if it's going to go down, like I said yesterday, it can go up the purge buy side to allow smart money to assume shorts against that buy side liquidity. I was offering the market the opportunity to present to me and you by highlighting that 4020.75 and 4024 levels. If it doesn't reach there and you're in the first 30 minutes, nothing has happened. I gave you 3 specific PD arrays to watch and observe. You know, if you've been paying attention and taking notes, for the folks that know I've said this, do me a favor. and tweet to me, yes, you have said if 3 PD arrays fail, that's problematic on a bias or a directional view on price, and it's going to most likely go the other direction. If you know I've said that, please tweet that and say you've heard me say that, because I know I have. I haven't just said it one time, I've said it multiple times. But if I say order block or fair value gap or volume balance, if you're here to find something to talk about that didn't happen correctly, you're going to have a whole lot of opportunity to do that erroneously. Not everything I'm referring to is an entry. There are measuring points, balance points, points of reference. That way we see what is the ebb and flow of price. Is it respecting this level? Is it not respecting it? If it goes through it with a lot of speed and magnitude, that is also a characteristic that is important. When we had price return back to that fair value gap at the 9 minute after 10 candle, 1 minute ES, came all the way back up, touched the bearish order block, spent it about 4 or 5 candles in there, and then repriced lower, then made the lower low. As it was dropping, I said that we want to see it go through the fair value gap from 650 time candle, and then offer, if it comes back to it, resistance. Now it went through the initial low at 1015. So once it takes out that low, we're not interested in seeing it return back to that fair value gap then, because we've expanded and made another lower low. So there's no need for it to come back to that fair value gap that's formed on the 650 candle. To come back to that level is problematic, which is why I said that hypothetically your stop loss on this idea would be 4000.5 or 4,001/2 of a point, to which it returned back to, but not before trading to 39.91 to offer a partial near the low. So 50% of the trade idea that you're logging, you may not have seen the setup, but you know the logic I'm talking about because I'm mentioning it in the tweets. Once everything's done, you take that information, go back into the chart, and you study. What do you see? What do you see? For some of you, you're going to see the consequent encroachment of the low in the candle formed at 9:30. 9:38 rather, sorry. And the market trades up into that fair value gap I mentioned, around the 4,007 levels, what it is price-wise, but the actual candle for the fair value gap is at 5 minutes after 7. Some of you may see that retracement back under the fair value gap after it made the lower low. That's your optimal trade entry. Leaving the range of that first 30 minutes. Not expecting it to come back into it. It doesn't need to. It's done its work by staying in the upper half of it and then failing to go to buy side. It ran out below the low. Okay, so what does that tell us? From a narrative stance, it says it's going to be seeking discount. Price will explore going lower into inefficiencies that are below market price, which is why I took your attention to the candle at 650. That's your fair value gap that was below price. And then the old low. And then once we went through them, 50% of the trade comes off. Why? Why? Because it could go down and take the low, make a lower low, put people on the wrong side selling short on a breakout, and then come all the way back up against the entirety of the daily range. It just so happens it retraces back up into that fair value gap formed at the 9 minute or 10 or 10:09 candle time wise, trading back up into the 4,005 level essentially, and then repricing lower to make a lower low. So now we had 2 times making a lower low. Why did I say 39.91 and I think it was 3/4? If you measure the low of 3995.50, which was the initial low of the day, and the 3988 level, which is the top of the next new week opening gap that I gave you yesterday, below the market price. Midway between that, you get 39.91 3/4 or 0.75. And as price was reaching down into it, I tweeted you would screenshot this right here, noting that your partial would be there, and then you'd have a limit order sitting at 3988.25, which would allow for what? 3988. Even if it traded to that, the buy limit order would trigger, and that would collapse the trade. But because we had what? 2 stages of offset distribution, that means the market rallied above the buy side above 40.15. Those highs at 840. Looking at your 1 minute chart, look at the bottom of the chart at 08:45. Go straight up from there. Just to the right of that, you'll see there's relatively equal highs on the 1 minute chart. That's a buy side liquidity pool there. The market rallied above that, but failed to get to 40.20.75. Spent the majority of the time in the first 30 minutes in the upper half of that range. What range? The opening range, which is the first 30 minutes of trading. If you don't have a hardline bias, if you don't know exactly what you're doing, you wait that first 30 minutes and you just let price tell you what it wants to do. You will not get into high of the day. You will not get into low of the day, and you don't fucking need to. You don't need to. I'm teaching you to do what? Find 5 handles first. That's your first goal, is be able to go into the chart, not necessarily live right now, because that's not even where you're supposed to be at in your development. You should be able to identify where 5 handles are in hindsight. Where's the setups? Where do you see it? Because if you can't see it there, you sure as hell aren't going to be able to see it when it's live. You won't know what it looks like, which is the reason why I'm giving you these prompts to screenshot. That way you can look at it right then and there. At this moment, you have some information to digest. It would be the equivalent of, if you were watching it without me saying anything, you should be seeing something right then and there. And then I tell you what the label is, so that way you know, this is what I should be observing at that moment. At this instant right here, this is what I should be thinking. Not because you should already know it, but I'm conditioning you to subconsciously retain this as a false memory. You're tricking your brain into thinking you knew this in advance. When I'm calling it beforehand, I'm lending my experience to you. I'm lending it. I'm prompting you to do the things that if you would have known how to do this, you would be seeing this very thing at that instance in time. That very second, that moment in time, this is the part that you should be observing at that moment. So since you don't have that skill set or the understanding of it, that's what tape reading is. I'm literally prompting you to pull out at the very specific times when price is doing certain things that's going to be helpful to you, which leads to what? Understanding how the market moves from one PD array, from discount to premium, from premium to discount, one PD array to the next. But some of you are just trying too hard to do other shit or trade. And you're not just simply taking what it is I'm giving you, which, months from now, if you submit to it, you're going to know how you were trying to make it harder than it needs to be. You're prolonging your learning, not me. I'm every day showing up. But you can say you're showing up every day too. But if you're showing up every day and you're not paying full attention, not focusing on the things I'm telling you to do, and avoiding the things I'm telling you not to do, pushing a button, demo trading. I'm going to say it for the folks that didn't hear me the first couple minutes of this session. If you share that you have taken a trade, whether that's profitable or losing, do not include my handle in that tweet, because I will block you. I don't want to see it. I don't care to know. When I want to know, I'll ask you. Then you can all flood the responses to that tweet when I'm asking. But right now, I need to have the peace of mind knowing that if you're hurting yourself, I don't want to know about it, because you're not listening. And if you're making money, you're not learning. The only thing you're doing is getting hopped up on goofballs. And when the party ends in November and you didn't learn how to do this on your own, you're not going to have that experience anymore. You're going to be right back in where you are right now, learning next to nothing, looking at other people, wishing that you could have done what they were doing. And I mean this sincerely. It's not that I don't care about you. I don't want to be bothered by this shit that is a testimony that you're not listening. Just like when I ask you not to call me the greatest of all times and the goat nut, this shit still happens. It makes me angry as fuck when I see it. I can't stand it. It's like you're calling me a derogatory term. I know what you're saying, but I don't want that. I don't want that label on me. So when you listen to me and I'm doing these live sessions and or calling out things on Twitter, keep the focus on whatever it is I'm taking your attention to at that moment. And then you explore your chart at that moment. Go into those screenshots and what do you see? Remember all the examples of me doing that over the years? Or I'd say, what do you see? WDYS question mark. And I'll show you a piece of price action. And for the people that don't really want to learn, or, cynics, oh, it's not enough information here. There's a lot of fucking information in the things I'm sharing. The thing I'm looking for you to identify is in that piece of price action. And the people that understand, they can see it. The folks that have not learned enough yet, they won't see it. And that's not a problem. It means that that's an opportunity for you to learn more. You dig into that. But you're looking at this thinking you know how to learn better than I know how to teach you. And that may sound arrogant on my part, but it's more arrogant for you to think that you know what you're supposed to learn when you have no idea what the fuck you're doing or what it is I'm going to teach. I mean, think about the level of absurdity to assume going to someone that's proven that they understand something, making themselves available, telling you what to do, tell you what to avoid, and then you do everything diametrically opposed to the instructions. And then mention that you're confused, mention that you're lost, mention that you just took a loss, you took a losing trade today. Everything in that is communicating that you are the fucking problem. Just like I had paid students that were the fucking problem. They couldn't see it. They were so blinded by their perception of themselves. There's no way they could make a mistake. There's no way they done this wrong. When everything they were showing, I'd say, okay, what are you doing? Well, I'm going long in euro. Why the fuck are you going long in euro when I'm talking about in the analysis that we're going down to these levels here, and it's going to those levels? But they're arm wrestling me, saying they can't get it to work because they're going against what I'm telling them that's going to happen in the marketplace. Is that sound logic? Is that a good argument to make? No, it's not. And it's tiresome. It's tiresome when I see folks not listening, when I have done this to a degree of redundancy that is nauseating even for me. So I know it's nauseating for the listeners, but I care enough to tell you you're fucking up. You're doing it wrong. You're not listening. You're doing extra shit when it's not expected of you.